Hi, this is Mike Craig, aka Mike 1040. We wanted to talk about the flexibility that we need in terms of thinking about and actually implementing velocity banking. When I say that it's flexible, velocity banking is one method to pay your debts down, but it's not the only method. Two relatively famous methods would be Dave Ramsey's debt snowball method, and a corollary to that, something that's called the debt avalanche. Dave Ramsey's debt snowball method basically tells you to focus on your smallest debt first. Eliminate that debt, and then take the extra money, or the extra cash flow that you're using to attack that debt, and then go on to the next debt and simply add in whatever the regular payment was for the previous debt that you've gotten out of the way. And you just continue on that process. And as the debts get bigger and bigger, you pay them off. And at the conclusion of that process, you don't have any debts. Now, Dave Ramsey usually will, have some sort of a ceremony for his adherents, and then they'll wind up cutting up their credit cards as a result of that. Obviously, as a devotee of velocity banking, we're not really into cutting up the credit cards because we live in a credit society, and frankly, if you use the credit cards in a prudent manner, then they can be helpful to you. Now, if you can't use them in a prudent manner, then I got to refer you back to Dave Ramsey and the method that he's using. Similar to that method, okay. Similar to that method would also be the debt avalanche. The debt avalanche is basically you're taking that method and flipping it upside down. Rather than focusing on the smallest debt, focus on the largest debt that has the largest interest rate attached to it. The theory here is that by getting rid of that debt first, you're actually saving more in terms of the interest that you're saving. So I mean, from a purist standpoint, I think that's probably a little bit more logical. Whether it makes sense in an emotional sense, that's another story. And Dave Ramsey has been incredibly successful in his campaign to get people out of debt. So there's a lot to be said for the method that he uses. But the Avalanche uses the method the other way and focuses on getting rid of the highest interest rate. Now, both of these methods really work without any regard to whether or not you have credit cards. Obviously, Dave Ramsey doesn't want you to have credit cards. Matter of fact, he wants you, to rip them up. I'm not sure about the debt avalanche, but once again, it does not have any connection to credit cards. Where I think velocity banking has an edge is that you can do those things or things similar to that in velocity banking, and at the same time develop a better credit profile for yourself going forward in the future. Velocity banking is going to focus primarily on the creation of cash flow. That cash flow gets created by, say, for example, putting all of your paycheck into an account, like, say, for example, a HELOC, and then paying your bills out of that HELOC. By moving your cash to the HELOC, that really takes care of the payment on the HELOC for that month, frees up the balance of that money, okay, to pay for your bills, groceries, things of that nature, and then in the following month do the same thing. By consistently putting your paycheck on that account, you're pushing down the amount of interest that would be paid on that account, and you're also pushing down the balance on that account. Okay, after you do that for a number of months, you may have paid off the debt that you were originally focused on, and then at that point you could focus on another debt and repeat the process. Because your credit line is building back up, many of the people in velocity banking use something that's called a chunking method, where you would take the additional amount that your account has built back in terms of its credit limit, move that amount to immediately attack that second debt, and then once again just repeat the process. Keep putting your paycheck into that particular HELOC or personal line of credit. Some people actually refer to these things as debt tools. And if you continue doing that, you're going to, at the conclusion of the day, get rid of the debts that you have, and at the same time build your profile, your credit profile for the future. Well, the reason why we're talking to you today is to show you that sometimes you have to be flexible. I mean, if you can't get all of your paycheck into that account, get as much of it into the account as you can. And if you have questions like that in terms of the practicality of how you do the velocity banking, that's what we're here for. We're here for you to reach out and answer your questions. The most important things about velocity banking, you need to know what your income is, you need to know what your expenses are, and you need to know what your debts are. List all of your debts, list them from the standpoint of the largest debts, the largest interest rates, and also I want you to list them from the standpoint of the payments. All right, get a complete list like that. Now, if you're if you're not sure about how to go about doing that, or if when you do that you still have questions, reach out to me. You can either send me a direct message, and I'll help you with going over your numbers and show you a path where you can actually get rid of your debts so much quicker by using the velocity banking method. Okay, take care. I appreciate everybody. You know, so far as the views and the watches that we've been receiving, we've noticed that those numbers are going up, which is a great thing, and we really do appreciate it. Share this video whenever you can. Provide us with some likes. And once again, I know people are leery from the standpoint of, volunteering information. I don't want anybody to volunteer any information that's not, in a secure setting. But at the same time, I want you to be able to conquer all of these debts that not just weigh you down financially, but there's so much weight on your mind as a result of it. So once again, here's another video for you. Share it wherever you can. Much appreciated. Mike Craig, aka Mike 1040, signing off.